Dating is hard, especially in the modern age. We now have more options than ever to meet a significant other, but the psychos and the creeps out there have just as much access to us. Most of us are able to tell the good ones from the red flags, but a few go on to get hitched, stepping through into a literal living nightmare. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Every new sub helps us achieve our goal and keeps us motivated to creating new content. With that being said, I'm your host, Raging Antibody, and here are 10 must-see killer spouse films. Number 1. The Stepfather. Starring Terry O'Quinn, this film follows a man with multiple identities as he marries young single mothers, trying to construct the perfect life for himself. And when things don't go as planned, he murders them all and moves on to the next family. There are 3 entries in the main series, plus a remake in 2009, but the original is still possibly one of the most shocking and eventful films in the subgenre. O'Quinn perfectly embodies the warm but strict father type, the same kind of essence he gave off during his turn as Locke on Lost. But that temperament can quickly change to violent psychopath, which brings a feeling of terrifying suspense as the family tries to escape his fury. If you haven't seen it, make it a marathon weekend. You're in for a treat. Find him over on Peacock. Number 2. Gone Girl. Not a traditional murder suspense drama unlike other entries, Amy, wife to Nick Dunn, isn't trying to kill her husband, but rather set him up for her own murder to teach him a lesson for cheating on her. That is, until it seems like her foolproof plan is beginning to unravel, and so she makes a triumphant return, murdering a male friend of hers and blaming him for her abduction. It is a carefully constructed, intimate thriller, pitting a wife's vengeance against her husband's dispassionate hatred for their marriage, in the end forcing the two into a union they both no longer wish to be a part of. The novel on which the film is based on is much more detailed, but the film does an excellent job in putting you into Amy's mind, almost softly lulling you into taking her side and justifying her actions, as abhorrent and wrong as they are. You can stream it over on Amazon Prime. Number 3. Sleeping with the Enemy. Starring Julia Roberts at the height of her innocent and lovely romantic comedies, the film starts off very similar, having a romantic weekend with her suave husband, a fancy dinner, a gallant dance party, but throughout it all, there is this sense of something being off. Well, we soon find out why, as when she disobeys one of his rules, one of his requests, he reminds her of her vows to him in a very physical sense. Soon, we see the truth of their marriage and how she desperately wants to escape, concocting an escape plan that she has secretly been planning for months to fake her own death so that he wouldn't look for her. Unfortunately, it's not a perfect plan, and he realizes she is still alive, hiding out in a small town, where he tracks her down in person and tries to take her back home by force. This ends in a climactic battle between husband and wife, where she unloads 6 rounds of a revolver into him, finally putting an end to her nightmare. You can stream it over on Vudu and Apple. Number 4. Flesh-Eating Mothers. So bad it's good is the perfect description for this film. Out of nowhere, in a small town outside of New York City, several mothers start developing deranged and demented behavior, leading up to them cannibalizing their own families. Now, it's never fully disclosed on what caused the pandemic, but it's severely hinted at it being an STD, and is easily cured at the end with a shot of penicillin. It's primarily a self-aware comedy with tons of horror elements and over-the-top gore, so if you're expecting some kind of deep and meaningful moral plot at the end of this film, you might want to try a different entry on this list. This one is for pure entertainment, and you can find out by streaming it on Tubi. Number 5. All Good Things. A true crime film based on the Robert Durst murder case, this film is a slow burn that really explores their marriage and takes an especially deep dive into David Marks, a stand-in for Durst himself, who, at a young age, witnessed his mother take her own life, and it forever changed him. At times, since it wasn't really common diagnosis at the time, it is also evident that David suffered from a form of autism, which caused him to have trouble with certain emotions. At first, they are a lovely couple, but as soon as they get married, things quickly descend, his abusive, controlling side fully emerges, and Katie desperately looks for a way to escape. At the time this film was made, the case was still unsolved, until a documentary crew caught sound recording of Durst admitting to having killed a few people, including his wife, her best friend, and a neighbor. So, the film of course takes liberties when depicting the murder and how it could have possibly been done, but eerily enough coming close to the actual events, and ends years later at the current date where Durst was still free. I highly recommend checking out this film first, then watching the 6-part documentary, The Jinx, both available for streaming on Tubi, Sling TV, and Vudu. Hey folks, sorry to interrupt, but we just launched our very own merch store at fatninja.shop. We sell everything from t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more, so we would greatly appreciate it if you checked it out. All the proceeds go to our future projects, so it helps us make any kind of movies and short films that we want to make in the future. So if you got time, check out fatninja.shop. Thanks again, and back to the video. Number 6, Invisible Man. Originally, this film was supposed to be part of the Universal's Dark Universe, starring Johnny Depp as the titular Invisible Man in a remake of the classic film. After that all went belly up due to the disappointing box office and critical failure of Tom Cruise's The Mummy, the film was then rewritten and reshot by Leigh Whannell, the writer behind the Saw franchise and frequent collaborator of James Wan. The studio didn't seem to have much hope for it, slotting it in for a release in February of 2020, just around the height of the pandemic, and it even was available on streaming right away. But, to the surprise of Universal, it was a massive hit. Cecilia is an abused, trapped, and frightful young wife to an incredibly toxic and controlling multimillionaire. One night, she manages to escape him with the help of her friends, and after he had left quite a few marks on her, it was easy for her to press charges and get a restraining order. However, a few months later, still not fully adjusted to living alone and traumatized by everything she went through, something is stalking her. Something she can't see. Now, obviously, it involves an invisible person, but for those of you who haven't seen this film, I don't want to spoil it any further, as the twists and turns in this film are just brilliantly executed. It's even one of those rare films that, after you've seen it, if you go back to watch it a second time, you'll notice small details that build up the way the film plays out. Make sure to check it out over on Peacock. Number 7. Fear. I'll be honest, while I do love his action films, Mark Wahlberg has always given me this feeling like something is wrong with him. Like, when he's not on camera, he's a complete nutjob who at any second could go off and assault someone and, wait, that actually happened in real life. Well, in this film, the character he plays kind of resembles his true younger self, the one that grabbed tabloids for being overly violent and heavily involved with drugs, and so I wonder if this is art imitating life or vice versa. Regardless, it's a terrifying film which at first starts off cute as Mark and Reese have some decent chemistry, but once he starts to show her his more jealous and impulsive side, she wants to end things and he simply cannot accept that. It comes to a head when he terrorizes her entire family, forcing Reese to take matters in her own hands when she teams up with her father and overpowers him, stabbing him and tossing him out of a window. This film feels totally 90s as well, so if you're looking to take a trip down that memory lane, you can stream it over on YouTube or Apple TV. Number 8. Perfect Stranger. Man, I gotta say, I already miss Bruce Willis. It is unfortunate that his disease is taking him away from a profession he absolutely gave his all to. Now, usually we see him in the role of gruff but lovable good guy, not quite ultra-heroic, but a flawed and human with good intentions. This film takes your perception of him and plays with it, secretly building him up to be a menacing presence that kind of reminds me of the way he played the Jackal. It's a slow burn, investigative thriller, following Rowena investigating the death of Harrison Hill's wife, finding out she had an affair with one of his co-workers, and spiraling into a whodunit conspiracy. However, is that truly how everything went down? As the pieces slowly come together, an interesting, albeit kind of cliched twist reveals itself at the end, which, in a somewhat cliffhanger, just abruptly ends. If you're looking for a more Agatha Christie-style murder mystery, then this is the one that should be on your watch list, and you can stream it over on Apple and Vudu. Number 9. Dolores Claiborne. A question I've always pondered at the end of films where the mom has to kill her husband because he's some psycho is, what happens to the kid when they grow up? Most of the time, the children in these movies are too young to understand what's going on, but old enough to remember their father, like the film Enough, for example. So when they get older and they start asking what happened to their father, does the mother just lie, or does she tell them the truth? How does the child deal with it? Well, this film explores that notion brilliantly, as it cuts back and forth between the past and the present, showing us the torment and agony Dolores went through with her abusive alcoholic husband, and how years later, when her daughter is all grown up, she is broken, filled with trauma, and blames her mother for all of her problems, idolizing a version of her father after blocking out the really bad memories. Based on a story written by Stephen King, it has ties to another film, Gerald's Game, and is an excellent and emotional film, which you can stream over on Vudu and Apple TV. Number 10. What Lies Beneath. Another one of those films that plays with our perception of a character based on our familiarity with an actor. This time it's Harrison Ford, as the charming, loving, but ultimately unfaithful and murderous husband to Claire Spencer, a woman who's been having ghostly encounters with a murder victim. Unlike the other entries on this list, this one feels way more supernatural, part of that early 2000s trend of films like Stir of Echoes and The Ring, where a spirit comes from the grave to warn others about their murder to finally put their souls to rest. As the film unfolds and the spirit provides Claire with more visions and clues, she begins to suspect her husband and starts to investigate him, even though everyone else around her thinks she's going crazy. Fearing his wife has uncovered the truth, her husband tries to stage her suicide, but with the combined effort of Claire and the dead girl Madison, they manage to overcome him, and Claire goes on happily ever after. Check it out for yourself over on MGM Plus and Sling TV. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, which is linked below in the description. We've also recently launched our very own merch store, so be sure to check that out over at fatninja.shop. I've been your host, Raging Antibody. Make sure your life insurance is up to date,